I don't have anything to say.
For the first time in your life?
First time of my life it was, and we have a video of it.
Yeah, right. Proof.
I find um, I find my personal history in trying to understand how to work with horses in this subject matter to be interesting because I don't think it's uncommon. And one of the big things that as a as a teacher or potential teacher and as a student is how do you introduce somebody to a field of knowledge that superficially appears to be to some appears to be about books, and others it doesn't have anything to do with books, and it doesn't have anything to do with the intellect.
Mhm.
Right? And so the problem is when you teach something, you should break it down into small parts. So you go from the particular to the general, or you go from the general to the particular. And the reality of this is that the story is not as important as the grounding in the relationship between you and the horse. And how do you teach that?
It's so funny you say that because I was explaining that to a student yesterday because they had a big aha moment where they were like, oh my gosh, everything's a rhythm and I follow the horse. I said, I know, I've been telling you that for years. But I remember when I myself had that aha moment. And it's like so hard because when you're teaching, you have to give them a roadmap and teach them all the parts, but they have to get a sense of the whole. And you can't make them get a sense of the whole and you have to teach them the parts. So I was like, it's like I gave you a roadmap to get here, but you don't really need the roadmap once you got it. But you do need the roadmap if you have a problem to go back and refer to. But once you have a sense of the feeling, you don't really need the parts anymore.
Well, yes and no, because then, but that's another level. In other words, I believe anyway, or I should say, maybe in my experience, once you're grounded, all right, properly, there's a certain level that you can get it to work to.
Mhm.
But unless the both of you come to a mutual truth in the relationship, you're going to be limited to what you can do. And what makes that valid is that most people, or many people, or the common way of working with horses is that they are not valued for who they are, but they're valued for what they do.
Yeah, sad.
And that's on one level that can be fine, but it's only fine if it doesn't disregard the horse's rights as a being. That's a funny way to put that.
Hmm.
I mean, the first rule in the relationship that you have with the horse is don't kill the human.
Yeah, well, that's for sure.
Okay. The other half of that is don't kill the horse,
Yeah, yep.
you know. And then the next part of it is where this starts to be a problem. Because when something's good, it's hard and
Hmm.
it's difficult,
Hmm.
except not in the horse world. Everything is easy. So the horse has to come to the relationship with a playful mind.
What do you mean that everything is easy in the horse world?
In other words, that the horse is like, well, you say, well, like given multiple choices, physically and mechanically, the horse will pick the easiest way of doing something. In other words, when
Yeah.
the horse moves,
Mm-hmm.
there's this impulse to go forward, to move, all right? And then that manifests through the body, all right? So if we do it, like if I said to you it's electrical, it manifests electrically through the horse's body, all right? And so then the degree of that electricity is the difference between walk, trot, canter, and a full out gallop in fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's simply, when I say to you, it's simply an electrical problem. If you're on a runaway horse, you know, you don't give a damn whether it's an electrical problem.
Yeah.
You just want the horse to stop. But in cultivating skill in the relationship with the horse is to create that range of motion from slow to medium to fast, and
Mm-hmm.
to be able to make that, when I say to you that mechanical connection, the mechanics of it are only one part of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you can do it mechanically well, which sometimes students do, and not psychologically have the connection with the horse,
Right.
right? So it's like how do you find that magic?
Mm-hmm.
You know, in it's in a weird way, it's easy to understand a beginner, but until the beginner reaches a place to where you can turn the horse loose and the beginner loose with each other, then you no longer have to worry about the outcome. The
Mm-hmm.
beginner can't really learn
Mm-hmm.
until it's personal and the instructor's out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, and yet if you give somebody a horse, you say, there it is, go ahead. You know, there's not always a good outcome with that if they don't know anything about horses.
Yeah. Well, I think, like you said, you have to be grounded within yourself, and that's going to take people the time that it's going to take. I know it took me a few years
Yeah, yeah.
because
Well, and that's what I,
you can't get that link with the horse psychologically if you're not grounded yourself psychologically.
right,
And the
right.
worst thing that happens is you can make it physical and you
Yes,
make it work.
yes. Well, in the same way that if we deal with we talk about management styles. Okay, when we talk about management styles, you can bullying and even physical brutality is a way of managing people. All right, but I think it's safe to say that in today's day and age, that kind of a style is not considered to be useful. That to get the best out of people is really team,
Mm-hmm.
is based on the way that we work as teams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think everybody can learn from each other, just like the horse can teach you things. And I tell the working students and the staff that all the time. Sometimes they'll do something and I'm like, oh, that's a better way to do that.
Right. And and well, so the end result is that it's not about the intellectual experience. If I say to somebody, oh, this is how you do it, or think about it this way, there's the way you think about something and the way you are about things. So you can not, yeah, I'm trying to think about how do you make this authentic with the horse? Because that's essentially what you're looking for in the moment to moment experience with the horse is authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's it like if I say to you, as a person, how do you register when somebody is authentic? What makes them authentic? And the interesting thing about that is when we take it from a human perspective, we could have quite a discussion about the nature of authenticity. But humans are very complicated. And my feeling is that it's in the silence and in non-motion that you find a place of authenticity with the horse.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When you stop doing stuff
Right.
and you try to neutralize your aids and your presence.
Mm-hmm. I think like you stop doing and you start being.
Yeah.
One of my favorite phrases is stop being a human doing, be a human being.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah.
And that's why
But
we keep everybody on the lunge line for a while, because you have
yeah.
to just be with the horse. And when
Right.
you're off the lunge line, when you're a beginner, you feel like you have to do.
Right.
You said this the other day, like that's one of the difference between a more experienced advanced rider and a beginner rider is when the horse doesn't do something you don't want, you don't panic. And like
Right.
particularly riding Winnie right now, 50% of the time I'm doing whatever Winnie wants to do. And
Right.
50% of the time we're doing what I want to do.
Right.
Because if I turn it into an argument, she's just going to get more and more emotional. So
Right.
sometimes I just have to be.
And your job as the rider is to make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to do fun for the horse.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily make it easy, but it's never making it too hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that thing about that. When I say everybody says, I don't know who the hell everybody is, but that you only work a horse up to 2/3. That if you say, well, in a given exercise, the horse is using 100%. And it's like, no, that's bad training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What you want to do is vary between the 50-50 and the 60%. And usually, if you get it to 50-50, it's relatively easy to get it to be, once the horse is calm, all right, to get it to where you got 2/3 of it. And
Mm-hmm.
2/3 of it you're doing that way. But, the first, that third that the horse has complete territorial control over, the rest of the being is the energy the horse wants to put into it. So it's not something that you can demand of the horse, but you can go back and forth in your rhythm and your tempo. And how do you get it out of the horse? And the answer is music. All right.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get it out of you? The answer is music. That's the lunch line.
Yeah. Yeah.
People,
One of the things like that student I was working with yesterday that I know really helped me when I started to get a sense of that is counting.
yes,
That's when
yes,
I knew, oh my gosh, I really am getting this 1, 2, 1, 2. And when I work a really green horse, sometimes I'll count again because their rhythm is so chaotic that it's hard for me to maintain my rhythm.
exactly right.
Yeah.
And it makes you, even though you're a good rider, when there's a lack of cadence or irregularities in cadence, the horse's perception of you is not you're a good rider.
Mhm.
It's that this thing is annoying me that's on my back.
Yeah. Yep.
So the first place that you have to start in the conversation is peace, which I know you know.
Hmm.
So, and that's the lunge line. Come into harmony with what is before you try to modify it.
Right.
All right. Then once you're in harmony with what is, there's never a time where you can't modify it.
Hmm.
And then the thing is, you think, well, no, that isn't always true. Yeah, it is actually. And that's one of the things that Bochet figured out, okay, is you could stop the horse and you don't have to move the horse. So when the horse is not moving correctly, the aids add up to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the relaxation or the play of relaxation, which is what a flexion should be. I don't want to go into the minutia of that. That's a whole world unto itself. But in terms of the way that you're functioning as a rider, is you're following the motion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny to talk with you about this because I know you know this stuff. So it's like, okay, so the what's interesting is you know it and I know it based on our experience.
Right. But one of the reasons it's good for me to hear it is because now I ride based on feel because of what you've taught me. And
Right,
sometimes it's hard for me to explain it to my students. So even though I know it, it's good for me to hear it because then I can try to figure out how to explain it.
right,
Sometimes I think you just feel it, just ride the horse, just feel it, because that's
right,
that I think about it now. But you can't a student can't learn that way. I would never be the rider I am today if I just went around trying to feel the horse. And that's the way most instructors teach, is just keep you moving, keep riding the horse, and then
right,
hopefully one day you'll figure it out. I wouldn't be half the rider I am today if I learned that way.
right. And the foundation of that way of riding is doing nothing, which is really weird, because you say, well, how do you ride the horse? Well, you don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how does that work? And it's like, well, the horse is either going to go to the left or the right or straight.
Right.
So if you feel the way the horse feels when the horse is turning,
Mm-hmm.
when the horse goes straight, it doesn't feel like that anymore.
Right. Well, and so many people don't realize how much different the horses move compared to us because they have 4 legs. It's
Right.
not just can they turn right, can they turn left? It's can they
Yeah.
turn clockwise, can they turn counterclockwise? Because the smallest possible turn you can make is really tiny. If you just
Right.
stand up and you spin around in a circle, that's the smallest possible circle you can make. It's like
Yeah.
what, a foot in diameter, or and the the diameter. And
Yeah.
then like the smallest possible circle that a horse can make is from the tip of their tail to the tip of their nose. That's a lot bigger than the smallest possible circle you can.
Well, and
And
but
then
that,
and then there's also the piece of, depending on where the weight is on each of the 4 legs, that's going to change how they rotate, because they can rotate counterclockwise 2 ways and they can rotate clockwise 2 ways. And
right.
it's not just can I rotate clockwise, can I rotate counterclockwise? That's not going to make you a very good rider. It's where's
Right.
the weight.
But what the horse also can do is break the forehand haunches apart and do a half a step on the forehand, a half a step on the haunch.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in a coordinated manner, they turn on their own center. On the other end is a pragmatic matter, right? People don't ride well enough, and most horses don't stand up well enough
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
the horse then rotates. It rotates on its own center.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so that's coordinating. That's one level of coordinating the aids. But in the broad general sense, the smallest circle a horse can do is equal to the length of its own body,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and that's an academic bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Craig, we're running out of time on Zoom, just so you know.
Oh God, I hate when that happens.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
I know we're about to get into some detailed stuff.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to truthfully, I don't want to get into that detailed stuff at this moment in time and space. I find that really the only reason that the greater details are interesting is when they're coupled with greater awareness.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I would tell people to start to pay attention to how their horse moves more.
Right.
Even if it's just out in the paddock, where's the weight? Which foot are they rotating around? How
Right.
are they rotating? Is the hind end swinging out or is the front end swinging out? How is the bend?
Right.
And just starting to watch and pay attention more to start to train people's eyes.
Right. Right. And it's like, Yeah, you're right, 100%. So I think that's probably about as far as we should go today.
I was gonna say that's a great spot to stop. Craig never says I'm right 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice if I learned to shut up sometimes, every once in a while.
Yeah.
All right. But I actually do manage to be very quiet with the horse. Not so much with humans.
Yeah.
Humans are too
It's
into it.
getting better.
I know. When I'm really good, that'll be the week I die.
Okay, well then never get really good.
So I'll always be a little defective.
Okay. You keep that up.
Yeah, I will. Okay, kiddo. So I
Okay.
guess I will see you a little bit later.
Sounds good. We'll see you
Have
then.
have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Bye.